The Dwarfs in Total War Warhammer are one of my favourite races in the entire game, and I think for the most part CA have done an excellent job in bringing them to life and making them stand out with having basically a type of explosive to deal with any tactical occasion, as well as their runic magic really separating them out from the rest of the races. But I still feel that they are lacking a couple of their big rockstar characters, as well as some of the more advanced engineering feats they've had to really set them aside as the great architects and alcoholics of their time. We're going to have 5 characters and 5 big scale units, so not only am I going to give you the top 10 units, I'm also going to suggest a way in which CA could package them as part of upcoming DLC. Welcome to ELVE Plot Armor, and this is my top 10 list of epic characters and machines that will round out the culture and armory of the Dwarfs. This list is in no particular order, and we're going to start off with heroes, and I believe with the first DLC pack alongside it, we often have a free legendary character. In this case, we're going to have a legendary hero, and it's going to be none other than Malachi Mackayson. Malachi Mackayson is one of the most popular dwarven characters that's not currently in the game because he is a Slayer engineer. You heard that correctly. His Slayer Oath came about because his experiments cost a huge amount of dwarven lives, and now he's basically one of the most wacky minds in the field, and he is none other than fascinating. He's a comrade of the very popular Godtrek and Felix, but he's not only a fan favourite, he also manages to sport some of the best possible mount options. He has 2 very interesting machines tied to his name, so this guy in himself could go a long way in getting us some big dwarven toys on the table. First of all, we would have Malachi's first mount option, and that is the Goblin Hewer. It's a contraption that lobs a copious amount of axes in whatever it's aiming at, so on the battlefield it would be very slow and cumbersome. However, what it does manage to aim at will give the Gore DLC a really good workout. This is one of the most violent things I think I've seen in the game, so it could be fun if nothing else, but more importantly, once you get him up to say level 30, you can put him on his signature Thunder Barge. Yes, the Thunder Barge is quite well known in the online community. For those who don't know, it is a literal Zeppelin airship. This thing of course is monstrously big and able to rain down copious amounts of firepower on whatever it happens to be next to, so limiting this by having it tied to a hero is actually a pretty good idea. Now if you want a whole armada of these, you could obviously make a mod for it, but do you really want to have to face 20 of these things if you're against a legendary AI? I doubt it. So by tying it to Malachi, it's his signature thing, it's lore friendly, as well as it keeps it a bit in check, because this thing will probably be able to win battles by itself, but hey, mages can do the same thing. Now, some people probably wanted Malachi as a legendary lord rather than a hero, but we've already got a lot of Slayer legendary lords. Like, if we keep this up, the vast majority of the dwarven leadership are looking to die by the end of the battle, so putting that in perspective, maybe just having some of these guys as the heroes and not leading the armies is maybe going to be a bit more for common sense. Next up, we need to introduce our 2 legendary lords that will helm both of our DLCs. The first one is none other, it has to be the legendary Joseph Bugman. He's basically famous for making beer, and that in itself, having dwarves follow someone purely for their beer making experience and ability, I think is pretty much the most dwarven thing you can get. Someone got their name in the book because they blew up his brewery. There is no greater grudge or sin to a dwarf or an Australian than taking down their brewery, so we're with you, Joseph, and we can't wait to see you. On the battlefield, he'll probably be sturdy enough and have a good amount of leadership as well as morale boost. Let's just keep our expectations realistic because he is fighting with a beer in hand at all times, which I do agree is the correct priority. Off the battlefield is where I really expect him to shine, to have some very strong faction-wide bonuses, probably pertaining to reducing corruption, increasing growth, public order, as well as anything else development oriented. The third and final character in this top 10 list will be Grim Burlefson. So he seems to be the most commonly cited, and I believe to be the next most popular after everyone else aforementioned or already in the game. He's essentially a defiant master engineer looking to take gunpowder to the next level. He's most famous for his signature shotgun called Grudge Raker, which can splatter hordes of goblins upon each shot. His unique abilities when leading an army could improve the AP damage to gunpowder, having a cost reduction to thunderers, and having a cost reduction to organ guns, among other things. Fun fact, his shotgun Grudge Raker has its own entry in the fandom page. I'm not even kidding, check it out. Now, to accompany me, each of these legendary lords, they should have a brand new legendary hero in their respective packs, and we're going to start off with the Demon Slayer. Yes, this is the same as a Dragon Slayer, but specializing in killing demons, which is pretty damn appropriate given that we're now in Warhammer 3 and Immortal Empires will have a very large chaos presence, meaning this guy will get some mileage. I definitely do want this again to be a hero and not a lord, because we've got enough lords that are slayers, but also having heroes is much more convenient. There would be no reason for you not to put one of these slayer heroes in your army, and for people that have trouble getting slayers into their army, this is a good and productive way to get some slayer action into your campaigns. Now, much like the high elves, the dwarves are very good defensively with infantry, but they suffer a bit at trying to get offensive infantry in, and just like the high elves who can use nobles to overcome this, this would give them that extra tool to countercharge in. Now, this guy should be wielding a two-handed axe, of course wearing stuff all armor, as is the tried and true Slayer way. The reason why they run around naked like maniacs is because they have shamed themselves and they seek glorious death in battle to redeem their name. On the battlefield, this guy is pretty much just going to be a melee beatstick, and over time you'll be able to increase his armor and hit points so he scales to the end of the game, of course, with lots of ways of increasing some insane armor piercing damage. Now, the biggest issue the Dwarven roster has is a lack of heroes that bolster replenishment, and on harder difficulty settings this really is felt. So originally I looked at all the available units and there is a Brewmaster hero, but if we only get to use 2 brand new heroes in the game, I would much rather can the Brewmaster and give the replenishment skill to the Dwarven Prospector. So the Dwarven Prospector is a veteran miner who has unrivaled knowledge of all the depths, the tunnels, the terrain, as well as the wealth and riches therein. Embedding one of these in your army, I would have the skill to increase the underway movement range to allow even bigger moves in between mountainous terrain. I'd also have this hero increase the amount of post-battle loot, as well as increase the chance of gaining magical items. Off the battlefield, well, we don't really have any hybrid units. Have a crossbow in one hand and a pickaxe in the other. Make this guy stand out and we have another hero that stands out and is something we would genuinely use. If you guys are enjoying the video so far, please feel free to check out the rest of the channel. There's a lot of guides and a lot of resources if you're a new or even quite experienced player. You might find some new stuff there as well. If you'd like to join our Discord, join a community of people that are always trying to get better, answer any of your questions, or even tell us how we're doing it wrong. And most importantly, if you're enjoying the content, please feel free to like, share, subscribe. It's really appreciated. Cheers. So here we're going to theme the 2 DLCs around 2 separate things. We're going to have the Joseph Bugman be around the more mythical things, whereas we're going to have the one around Grim around more of the engineering based things. We're going to focus on him first. So we've got him, we've got the Prospector to help mining. Now, what can we build? We need to build some bigger things. And the first thing that I think they really need to prove they can build is the Dwarf Juggernaught. Now, this is essentially a rip off of the Empire steam tank, and it doesn't need to be that good, but I mean, the dwarves could build this and they can't build it. Why are the Empire the only ones with tanks when this is clearly something within the capabilities of the Dwarven arsenal? We have plenty of imagery of this thing, but it does not even have any rules yet, so they could go free reign on this. I just wanted a couple more big machines to really spell out just how good the Dwarven engineering is, and the other one I would like to accompany this is the Steam Golem. Now, this is a mechanized replica of a giant Rune Golem, but of course this is much smaller than a Rune Golem, but it is just quite clearly made by metal, moving parts, cogs, pulleys, all that good stuff that you associate with the Dwarven engineering. On the battlefield, they would just function as melee beatsticks, slow, lumbering, and able to probably pound into oblivion whatever they get close to. I think these guys would look great on the battlefield, and they would move forward at the slow, lumbering pace that the dwarves tend to prefer. Next up, we have the actual giant beings which inspired those machines, and that is the Rune Golems themselves. Now, this one I would have accompanying the Bugman DLC, being more of the big, legendary, mythical side of things, and the Rune Golems, we're gonna have to twist a bit of the lore to try and make this work because yeah, it's a bit difficult, but hey, if we can have high elves with armadas of several dragons, I'm pretty sure we can try to look the other way a bit. Maybe some high level research, maybe a quest using Thoric to uncover them. However we do this, these would give us a great large single entity that would both look great and just be absolutely epic. These big lumbering pieces of stone with runes flashing off them. On the battlefield, I don't know, I get very much the Rogue Idol vibes from the greenskins, something like that. You guys have seen enough single entity monsters roaming around the battlefield, you know how these ones work. Lumber up, stomp, repeat. Sweet. Next up we have the Shard Dragon. Now this is a dragon that lives so far below the Earth's surface, it has lost the ability to fly, and it's essentially a giant pointy thing that effectively normally they try to avoid, but the power of these things was so high that they put all their runic energy into making runic collars to enslave them and then fight their bidding. Not only would this unit be awesome, this would also allow some new melee possibilities by having this big behemoth charge in through the front and then having your hammers and slayers come around the flanks and engage. Yes, this can't fly like a normal dragon, but it's going to quite badly mess up whatever it does get its hands on. And some shard dragons have even been reported to use breath attacks, so sign me up. It is unlike any other dragon that's currently in the game, and it also highlights just how deep the dwarven technologies can get them below the Earth's surface, which again points them out as being badasses at what they do. My last one that's from the army books is a bit of a lackluster one, so I've got a bonus one after this as well, but this is effectively just mounts. So on both the Dwarven Lord and the Thane, you are meant to be able to put them on an oath stone. It's kind of cool, but more importantly, the Dwarven Lord can also get shield bearers. Two of the Dwarven Lord's mates lifting him up on their shield. It really leans back into the historical inspirations behind the dwarves, and it does at least somewhat make the Dwarven Lord stand out. Bit over the Runesmith, who, let's face it, you're gonna take every time. This last one is just an idea from myself. If you don't like it, totally cool, feel free to roast me in the comments, but I thought it'd be kind of cool to have a Gyrocopter that is centered around hunting, like a Huntmaster Gyrocopter. In addition to some humble fire support, the signature weapons of this would be a couple of harpoons. Now the idea is you could only target large single entities with these. This would mean that if there's a mammoth coming up, you could harpoon them, and this would put down, say, like a negative 80% movement speed buff, so long as you're within a certain angle. So i.e. you're basically spearing them and pulling them away. You could use a couple of these to be able to hold something relatively in place, allowing your range units to blow them apart. So they're essentially like a dragon slaying air force, and I thought it's kind of a cool idea. It's effectively whaling, but for dragons. I don't know, I thought it was cool. You let me know what you think, and if you have a better idea, make sure you chuck it in the comments. And that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Please feel free to check out my guides on all the races. I don't just cover elves and dwarfs. If you have found this entertaining, please feel free to give it a like or even consider subscribing to the channel. It really helps out. Comment what you'd like to see next, and this is Elven Plot Armor, and I will see you next time. Cheers.